Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Eric Lucasian with Trackalicious, here tonight to do the detailed track walk of Misano World Circuit Marco Simoncelli. Uh, and giving us the expertise is Cardo Huesca. Hi, Cardo. How are you?
Hey Eric, I'm real fine. How about you?
I am doing great. So, Cardo, aka Coach, aka Alien, aka the Wizard, from Carter Racing School, is here to give us the details and the information and the knowledge that he has about Misano, getting us prepared for our GT3 race on Sunday. And, excuse me, while we'll be covering quite a bit of detail over the next hour, for those who are interested in really getting a personalized experience and personalized, detailed attention to your driving style and a bit more detail on which blades of grass you need to brake at for Misano and turn in and exit and throttle. Um, Please visit carterracing.com, exclamation point coach in chat. He does a phenomenal job of giving that type of information and having the knowledge to to give to others. So highly recommend it. So if you haven't had a chance to do that, I highly recommend it. I've done it myself. Really great information. And with that, let's get
Thank you,
started,
man.
Cardo. I'll put it over to you and have you start going through what I expect to be a pretty awesome lap.
Thank you. Well, this track is very tricky, very technical, and you have to be patient and just watch out with the track limits. All right, let me get in position so we can start seeing the lap. Yeah, it is very technical, and the third sector is just crazy. But it's a really good track. Go back a little bit. Right, so we're gonna start on turn one, and uh, earlier I was testing the track limits, and there is some weird stuff around the track about the track limits. Um, I'm actually gonna call this track the wrong tire. You're gonna see why. It's probably not this lap, probably the next one. But in turn one, we wanted to get as far as we can to the left. But uh, the reason I'm calling this track the wrong tire is because instead of putting the left tires on the rumble strip, you're gonna put the right tires on the rumble strip. So it's technically it's a wrong tire. Track limits are fine here. So we're going to try to put the right tires on the rumble strip right here, very close to the left. And for the braking point will depend on your brake bias. Brake bias is very, very important here because on some corners you want a lot of rotation, and on some corners you don't want any oversteer. That's pretty much sector three, and you're probably going to need to play a little bit with the brake bias. So for the braking references, we're going to look at the 50 board on the left. And if you look at the track, you're going to see right here how it gets a little bit lighter on the track. That is my actual reference for my braking points. Uh, Probably depending on your graphics, you're going to see it. Also depends on the track state. If it's a fast track, you're barely going to see it. If it's a green track, you're not going to see it. So just keep that in mind. But our main reference for this one is the 50 board right here. And also, if you are going to overtake, uh, look at the other 50 board on the right. So you can know where the breaking point is if you're going on the inside. So it's not a really hard braking zone, but we're gonna play with the track limits here. So we're gonna try to get as wide as we can, and because this set of corners are right next to each other, we're gonna compromise the exit turn one, and again, we're going to the wrong tire. Track limits right here are fine. Since the car is turning to the right, the weight of the car is going to the left. So if you go over the bumps right here, you should be fine. Depending on the car, but I mean, if I could, if I did it on the Ferrari, probably on any car, you can go over the bumps with no problems at all. And we're gonna try to put the left tires on the rumble strip right here instead of the right tires. So that's going to give you a little bit of time for your awesome lap. So we compromise the exit. We're not going to go, I'm sliding all the way. We're not going to go all the way to the left. We're going to try to keep the car in the middle of the track. And this section, we're going to treat it as a small straight. As soon as you get out of the first corner, there is a small straight. So you're going to try to go full on the throttle, and it's for a short amount of time, and then you're gonna brake hard again, and we're gonna try to cut as much as we can. And again, we're gonna try to put the right tires on the rumble strip instead of the left tires, so it's again the wrong tires. We're gonna compromise again the exit this corner a little bit. But there are two ways to take this corner. Because we have this much of a track on the right, uh, track limits are not very sensitive here. So you can actually put, again, your left tires on the rumble strip instead of the right tires. So there are two ways to get out of this corner. First, you can compromise the exit and take this line, stay in the middle of the track, full throttle, try to cut as much as you can on the curb, and just go to the next one. Or the other way is, if you go wide on the exit, because it's a fast corner and you have downforce right here, you can actually stay on this part of the track for the exit instead of the middle of the track. It will depend on your setup and how well the car is behaving through this section. So what I do is I try to, yeah, get close to the right, but not that much, so I can get a good entry for this one. And all this part is full throttle. Now, it is very tricky because, and again, we're on the left tires are on the rumble strip instead of the right tires. So it's the wrong tire again, but track limits are fine there. Pull on the throttle. Be careful with power oversteer. Uh, this corner is a little bit tricky because if you look at it from this point, the corner, it looks like the corner is tighter, but you have a lot of room on the left um, to get a wide exit on this corner. So full on the throttle. If you feel like the car is uh, understeering through, it's pretty much this section, just lift the throttle just a little bit, not a lot. If you lift completely, the car is going to oversteer because the weight transfer is going to go to the front, the rear is going to get lighter, and the rear is going to step out. So just lift the throttle just a little bit. Um, I will not change the traction control for this one. I will just play with the throttle control. So wide on the exit, I actually take a really wide exit right here. Yes, there are marbles right here, but track limit's still fine. So you can get very, very wide on the exit. We're gonna get ready for the next braking zone, and the braking zone starts right about here, where the big rumble strip or the yeah it's painted area starts. I mean ends, and it's gonna go all the way to the 50 board.
And
So
Cardo,
be
before
careful.
before
Yeah,
we move too far forward, just for some of
yeah,
our newer ACC drivers, that previous corner is a really easy one to get track limits at, going wide. So whether if you understeer or oversteer and trying to regain control of your car, going wide beyond where Cardo was showing his car will likely get you a track cut.
yeah. Actually, let's look at the actual limits of the track. It's right about here. So for this one, we're gonna take this white line on the track to be our limits. So our right tire should be on the inside. If you go over the white line, yeah, you go over the track limits and you mess up your lap.
Yeah, and I think this corner is somewhere where I know I've typically struggled where you can gain or lose a lot of time trying to maximize that line and really push to stay full throttle. So it's easy uh, for some of the lesser experienced guys to push out wide and get that easy track cut.
Yeah, for this one, just throttle control is what I use if I'm getting too wide. Uh, right about this point where this, let's say, triangle is right here, this section, this is where you're going to decide if you're going to lift or not. Because right about here, you can feel like the car is going way too wide or not. Uh, you can use the actual racing line that ACC has, which is this one. So if you're going too far to the left, then you probably know you're on the steering coming out of this corner. So yeah, but this one and it's a it's a it's a very hard corner if the car is not well planted. So yeah, but just throttle control. Don't brake. If you brake, the car is going to step out most of the time. So braking right about here starts right here. The braking zone. Some cars can brake in the middle, like in between the red paint on the left and the 50 board. I usually brake right here, just to where the red paint ends. Hard on the brakes. We're gonna go all the way down to first gear. Some cars can take this one in second gear. The GTR can take it in second gear. Um, but this one is very tricky because the it has a little bit of a bank angle. This corner. So we're gonna try to get help from that small bank angle that we have right here. So it's like in between the rumble strip or the curb and the red stuff. This part is lower. So we're gonna try to use this to help the car turn into the corner and carry a lot more speed that you can actually uh, that you think. So hard on the brakes, trail braking hard right here as deep as you can. As soon as you go over the apex, you're going to go full on throttle. And again, we're going to treat this as a small straight. So we're going to try to go full on the throttle. Most of the time, the traction control is going to turn on all the way to the entry of this corner. So trust the traction control. The traction control actually can help you to turn the car into the next corner. So yeah, just floor it. I mean, the car should be able to turn and maintain the grip with the help of the traction control. right about, yeah, and I messed it up. Hold on. So right about here, just before the end of the red paint on the left, I usually lift, and all this references that I'm talking about is just considering that you're inside of the car. So it depends on your FOV. So let's try to simulate the FOV right here. So just before the end of the red paint on the left, I usually lift, turn, and my goal here, I'm gonna target this white triangle. This is going to be my exit for this corner, because the next corner we're gonna try to take it flat out without any lift. So we're gonna compromise our exit, uh, so we can get a very good entry for the next corner. And the reason is, after this corner we have a long straight. So we're going to try to focus on the entry and exit of the next corner. So we're going to compromise the exit of this corner, which this is very tricky sometimes. You have to play with the weight of the car or the weight transfer. So trying to get out on the triangle, and we're going to look for two references here. One, the first reference is the green paint on the right. This is my reference for my turning point. So I'm going to try to turn right about there. And I'm trying to get as wide as possible so I can get a very good wide entry with this one and stay on the throttle as much as I can. Again, wrong tires. We're gonna focus on, I mean, we're gonna try to put the right tires on the rumble strip. Instead of the left tires, we're gonna put the right tires right here. So you can actually cut a lot of this corner without, I mean, you're on the track limits, but not triggering the track limits, if that makes sense. So full no throttle. We're gonna get very wide on the exit, but be careful with this exit. It is super tricky, and the track limits are very sensitive. If you go, if you touch the bumps right here, so we're gonna try to put the right tires in between the bump and the rumble strip. So right where the drain is. That is like the max you can go on the exit. There, full on throttle to fast section. I'm gonna forward this.
And again, that's another corner that's a very easy track cut corner. So careful on the exit on the limits of that corner because that's where you could get limits quite frequently.
The thing about this exit is the bumps. So if you go over the track limits, you're gonna hit the bumps, and dude, they don't look that high, but these are huge, and the car actually can take off. So if you go over the track limits, yeah, you're gonna be jumping around here. So just be careful with this one. That's why we're gonna use the drain as our limits for the exit. But yeah, you're right. This one is very tough, especially with the bumps. Not so much with the. I mean, yeah, the track limits, but if you touch those bumps, the car is just gonna probably spin. I have crashed so many times there. It's not fun. All right, next corner. Reference for our braking. It is the 100 board right here. I usually brake when the 100 board is in the middle of my car. It depends on the car, of course, but with the Ferrari, it's like right here. So when I align the 100 board with the middle of the car, I brake. this one again, we're gonna put the left tires on the rumble strip instead of the right tires. So my theory is right. It's the wrong tire track. Now, as a reference, we're gonna use the 50 board for our turn in. Now, this corner, it is super tricky. You have to trail brake till the end of the track and trust the car while turning in. And I'm gonna tell you why. So we're turning in, trail braking into the corner. Some cars can actually take it in second gear because of how my setup is right now. I was downshifting into second gear, but depending on the gear ratios, some cars are totally fine with second gear. The Bentley, I think it can take it in second gear. The BMW, both the M6 and the M4. Uh, the GTR can take it in second gear. The Jaguar can take it in second gear. No, that one is in first gear. Jaguar has very long gear ratios. But our goal here is to put again the right tires on the rumble strip, the curb, so we can get as close as we can to the left. And as soon as we hit the apex, we're going to try to go full on the throttle. It is very important to be super early on the throttle and just be careful with power oversteer. It is very common to have power oversteer for this one. So yeah, usually you can fix the power oversteer with the rear differential or with less camber. It's not a fast corner. It has very good grip on this section. So yeah, with a little bit less camber, you can probably get away with the power oversteer. But that's a whole other subject. We're gonna go wide on the exit. On this one, yes, you can put your left tires on the rumble strip, but that will be pushing the track limits way too much. So just try to stay on the inside. Full on throttle, let the car uh, stabilize right here. We're gonna switch to the left, and we're gonna be looking for our uh, positioning for this corner, which I hate this corner. It's so tricky to get it right because sometimes you have oversteer while you're braking. Sometimes the car understeers a lot. So what I do is I focus on my racing line, and I'm gonna use this long triangle, white triangle, as my, let's say, not entry, but as my part of my racing line. So using the white triangle, getting as wide as possible, get the camera right, and we're gonna be looking for our braking zone. So if you look here, the track changes colors. I mean, it gets darker. So you can use the start of the rumble strip on the right as your braking point or braking reference. From my point of view, right here, I am braking almost like in the middle of the corner, but that is just my point of view. But the real reference or the reference that you can take is the start of the rumble strip on the right. Hard on the brakes. Try to brake on a straight line. Don't turn the car until the last part, which is right about here. So we're going to try to do a straight line from our braking, which is right here. We're going to keep the car straight so we can brake all the way over here. And just before the corner, we're going to start turning and releasing the brakes. So we're gonna try to trail brake a lot for this one. Just be careful if you turn the wheel too much, you're probably gonna get oversteer while turning. So trail braking, it is very, very important right here. So releasing brakes, we're gonna try to get the right tires on the rumble strip. I actually went a little wide, just a tiny bit, but what I usually try to do is to put the right tires on the inside of the rumble strip or the curb. Uh, this is gonna help the car turn a little bit more. And we need to focus on the throttle application for this one. We have to be as early as possible, especially for this corner on the throttle, because after this corner, there is a long, long straight. So if you're not early enough on the throttle for this one, you're going to lose a lot of speed on the straight. And actually, the straight is a very, very good section to overtake someone. So if you have a bad exit, probably the guy behind is going to overtake you if he has a good exit for this one. So trying to be, and I messed it up, trying to be as early as possible on the throttle. I'm lost. I found myself. Okay. So early on the throttle, let the car go super, super wide on the exit. Track limits right here are not very sensitive. You can actually go a little bit wider on this. Probably your left tire is like right here. So yeah, you can go very, very wide on the exit. Full throttle. Let me speed this up. Now this straight, it's a very good uh opportunity to change your tire pressures if you're gonna do a pit stop, your fuel, all that stuff, because it's a long straight and you can work your strategy on this straight. So full throttle, trying to get very close to the left. Now this one it is very tricky. It doesn't look like it's a problem here, but you have to keep in mind that downforce is pushing the car down. So the car is going to be lower. The ride height is going to be like all the way to the floor. Um, if the car is too low, the car is actually going to bottom out here. So be careful with this. It's not a huge deal. You're not going to lose a lot of time, but just be careful with this one. Uh, Again, you can actually put your left tires on the rumble strip right here. So again, it's a wrong tire uh, positioning, but track limits are fine. I'm not sure if they changed the track limits with the update, but right now they seem fine to me. Not as sensitive as before. So this is probably our favorite corner.
I think this is my
It's
favorite corner in ACC. I
it's
love this
so
corner.
hard not to die here. Seriously.
It's such a technical corner, I feel.
Yeah, you have to try brake uh a little bit on this one. You have to be super smooth on the turn in, and if you brake too much, the car is gonna oversteer. If you don't brake enough, you're gonna turn in too early and you're gonna hit the curb and jump around. So yeah, this one is just very tricky. Um, There's a thing about this one. Uh, if you look at the rumble strip right here, it looks like the racing line is it's good. But the thing is, right about here, if I'm not mistaken, there is a hidden bump that most of the time and with most of the cars, you're gonna bottom out on that bump. It's like super hidden. I think it's this one. I'm not sure to be honest, but there's a bump on this section. So just be careful here because if you touch that bump with the floor of the car, uh your entry is just not gonna happen. So just be very, very careful with that bump. Also, by when you're releasing the brakes, when you're turning into the corner, don't be too aggressive when you release the brakes. So you can give the suspension time to settle and then turn. So if you're aggressive while you're releasing the brakes, the car is probably going to step out. So be very, very careful. Wrong tire again. Trying to get as close as possible to the rumble strip. Uh, doesn't mean that you have to put your left tires on the rumble strip or the curb. I mean, that's how I usually take this one. But I for this setup, I actually went with the higher ride height just to be able to get as close as possible, especially for this one, to the right. Uh, but if you're running a very low car or low ride height, just be careful because it's very, very bumpy if you get too close to the right. Going on the throttle early, it is super, super important on this one. If you take too long to get on the throttle, the car is going to act weird. So try to be very, very early on the throttle. This one and keep the car. This one is very tough because on this yeah, on this section it's a little bit bumpy, but it's bumpy enough to throw the car on the outside. So just be careful with that. Um, it is a fast corner. Uh, the rear wing plays a huge role here, so just be careful. Um, after you are still alive on the exit of this one, you can look for your next braking point or braking zone. So on your left, on your right, you have a 50 board. You have a Audi Sport sign. I'm going to tell you why we need that. You have a white line on the left, which is awesome. So braking point or braking reference is the 50 board or the white line here if the board is gone, and this white line on the left. That is my reference for the braking for this one. Full on the brakes, we're gonna trail brake a lot, and I use this Audi sign as my turning point. So right about the sign, I turn into the corner. That's why I mentioned the sign. We're gonna trail brake a lot. I actually think I went a little bit wide. It's fine. We're gonna trail brake a lot. So right here, I'm almost at the apex of the corner and I'm still braking. Just a little bit, but still on the brakes. So we're gonna trail brake deep into the corner. Actually, I went a little bit wide on this one. The goal here is to put your right tires on the inside of the curb. That is going to help the car turn into the corner. So try to put the right tires on the inside. Again, going early on the throttle, it is super important so you can get a very good exit. Now, for this exit, we're going to compromise our exit just a little bit. And for the next section, we're going to be a little bit aggressive with switching from the left to the right. And the reason is we're going to try to take this corner flat out without any lift, just keeping the throttle down on this one. So it is very important to move from the left to the right as fast as you can. And our entry, well, not entry, but like preparation for this corner, it is the green paint on the right. So I'm going to try to get the right tires on the green and then turn into the corner. Three, I touch the green, I turn into the corner, still on the throttle, flat out. You can actually cut uh, a lot of this curve right here. The bumps are not a huge issue because since you're turning to the left, the weight of the car is on the right. So the left tires don't have a lot of weight on them. So the bumps are totally fine. But try to take this one flat out. That is like the goal for this one. If you have to lift, try to turn in a little bit earlier so you can cut a little bit of a curve right there. We're gonna go very wide on the exit, and when I say very wide, is your left tires are going to on the rumble strip instead of the right tires. So again, it's the wrong tire, but track limits are fine. If you go past this point, I think like if you put the left tires on the right side of the rumble strip, you can get a track cut. But if you keep the tires on this part, you should be fine. Just be careful because it's the uh your it's the last sector, and if you screw this up, your lap is ruined. So be very careful with the exit. Right here, I'm looking at the end of the red paint on the right as my exit for my it's gonna sound weird for my last exit, if that makes sense. Right about here, we're gonna focus on the 50 board. We're gonna focus on the white triangle, and we're gonna focus on the start of the rumble strip. This white triangle is my entry, well, my preparation for the next corner. I'm going to try to get as close as possible to the right without touching the board. So I'm going to try to get very, very close to the board without touching the board. There it is. And this is actually the braking zone or the braking point. So the 50 board is your braking reference. The start of the rumble strip is your braking reference, or that's what I use for my braking. So downshift twice. You can take this one in second gear. Some cars can actually take it in third gear. I did some laps and used third gear, and it was totally fine. So try to play with the gear selection for this one. Again, you have to be super early on the throttle so you can get a very good exit. And again, we're going to try to put the wrong tires on the rumble strip. So the right tires on the curb right there. Because we're turning to the left, the weight of the car is on the right, so the left tire should be fine. Be careful with the track limits. Again, if you go a little bit closer to the bumps, you're going to get a track cut. Early on the throttle, let the car go wide, and we're gonna aim to put the right tires just before the bumps. You can go on the bumps, like in the first part of the bumps, like right here. Slow this down. right here you can put the tires over here. If you go deeper than this, like on the yellow marks, the truck is going to jump around and you're probably going to go over the track limits. So just be careful with that. I focus on putting my right tires between the bump and the rumble strip. There. So that's in between those two. And for my exit of my exit, if that makes sense, it's that triangle. So we're gonna move over to the left as soon as we go over the white triangle. So that's the exit. And that is Misano.
So, Cardo, earlier in the lap that you mentioned something about brake bias. Um, do you, I don't know if it's for a hot lap or during the race, where do you want your brake bias towards the back and where do you want your brake bias towards the front?
It is for this corner. Hold on, I'm lost. It is for this corner. If your brake bias is too far to the rear, when you brake into this corner, the rear is going to try to step out. So if you feel like the car is oversteering on braking and turning for this corner, move your brake bias to the front. Probably 2 clicks should be fine. But that is one way to fix the oversteer for this corner. Keep in mind that you're going to do that only and only if the car feels good through the whole track. If it feels weird on other corners, probably you have another issue instead of the brake bias. But if the car feels stable through the whole track, uh, the only thing you can do for this corner is moving the brake bias to the front by a couple of clicks. But yeah, this is Misano. It's a
Yeah,
really fun track.
yeah, I think it's a track that I like a lot. I think it's got a really fun flow. Do you think we could maybe run through a full lap in car so that everyone can get a
Yeah, I'm gonna do one lap on the chase cam and then the other one on uh, cockpit,
perfect?
so you can see the lines and the inputs on the inside, right? And that was a one. 133.8. There's a little bit more time that lap. But yeah, the goal for the race pace it is around uh 34s probably. Um I mean the ideal is 33 mid 33s. And now we're gonna go for a lap. That is Misano. You guys have any questions? Feel free to ask.
Let me ask a general question. When
Yep.
you're looking at setup, what do you typically bias towards for Misano in terms of
Uh,
aero? Just I know you can't be specific, and it's car dependent and um, driver dependent, but just talking about generalities here.
I will go for a soft suspension because you have a lot of slow corners, so you have a lot of mechanical grip. So soft suspension is good. Uh, on the straights, just trying to keep the aero balance stable, so you can use the bump stops to do that. Um, and the ride height, it is very tricky here because if the car is too low, at least with the Ferrari, the car is going to scrape the bottom a lot of times, and that can unbalance the car on some corners. Like this corner, if the car is too low, the car is gonna it's not gonna bottom out, but it's gonna scrape a little bit, and that can unbalance the car. And yeah, but soft suspension in general.
Okay, well, I don't see any questions from anyone, so for those who stuck around to watch the track guide, hopefully it was informative for you guys. Greatly appreciate Cardo doing these track walks for us and giving us an abundance of information to digest over the next day and a half while we get ourselves prepared for the GT3 race, which is coming up on Sunday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Um, Cardo, thank you so much.
No,
Uh,
thank you.
This was awesome.
Okay.
And at Misano, I actually don't think I'm very good at Misano, but I really do enjoy racing this track. Typically, I'm good at the tracks that I like and bad at the tracks that I don't like, which is why I don't like them. If you're slow at it, you hate it more. But this is one of the flow is so much fun in this track and really enjoyable.
Yeah, it's a very tricky track, and it requires a lot of patience, and because of the flow of the track, you have to be very precise with your inputs. Very, very precise, and just be careful with with the track limits. I mean, if you go like 2 inches wide on some corners, you're gonna get a track cut. So be careful with track limits, especially with used tires. So towards the end of the race, be careful with that because the grip changes a lot with worn tires. So yeah, just be careful with that. Don't miss your braking points. Braking points are super super important at every single track, but this one is very tricky too. So, but it's a fun track.
Yeah, so basically for me it's don't miss your braking points, find your turn-in points, find your throttle out points, and don't miss any of them, and maybe I'll get a pretty decent lap. Um,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, it's really technical. I find it really technical, and I think that's kind of the fun part of the challenge is in um, trying to get it right, which isn't easy. So, again, thank you so much. For those who don't know, we do have our race at 8:30 Eastern on Sunday, and then that's followed by our um, Tuesday iRacing Spec Miata League with 949, the awesome guys over at 949. And then the next Thursday, we'll be racing our GT4 League just after the 949 Sprint Series, which is really fun to watch. So it's a really good double server header for those who like to float around and watch some good racing. So highly recommend it. It's super fun to watch. And most importantly, coming up next week, we have our 2 hour 40-minute solo enduro at Nürburgring. So that's March 12th. If you haven't signed up, do sign up. That's partnered with 949 as well. We're expecting a really great grid. We do have Mike Jackson coming back, who has won our first two races in the endurance series, going 2 for 2 on the win. So looking to see if anyone can give Mike Jackson a run for his money. Um, so yeah,
Oh yeah, Mike is super great.
he's really good. He five-headed both of those races and just killed it. It wasn't even a well, it was a question at one point in time because we weren't sure if he was going to be um, if he had picked the right strategy as Costi was going for a one stopper versus his two stopper, but in the end he ended up uh, being the victor.
Yeah, he's such a good driver.
Yeah.
Such a good driver and super clean too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love racing with him.
All right. So if there's nothing else, Cardo, anything to add?
Just breaking points as usual. Breaking points, breaking points, breaking points. That's it.
And if you're looking for one-on-one lessons to fine tune your driving style and see if you could overcome a lack of progression for some reason, cartoracing.com, exclamation point coach, which we'll put on here. Going on to Cardo Racing. He does a fantastic job, just speaking from experience. And
Thank you, man.
with that, we're gonna close the stream off and pop it to someone else. Thank you everyone for watching, and all of those who are going to be watching it on the VOD, which will be posted tomorrow. And have a good night.
Good night. Thank you.
I don't care for this track. He's like, Paul Ricard, that's an amazing track.